All right, Phil Shoemaker, Casey Cunningham, how are you?
Doing well, Casey. Excited to be here.
I wanted to ask you, had we met before, but that might be if you say no, you can't remember. That means I wasn't memorable. But if you say yes, absolutely, you don't remember me, I'm in big trouble. So anyway, it's great to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
Listen, so you're the third largest wholesaler in the country today, right?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we're
So to
pretty proud.
get to that level and to be playing at that high of a level, I want to hear what's the secret sauce? How did you get there?
Oh, I love that question. A lot of hard work, for
Oh,
sure.
that.
Honestly, the big thing, and I do think this is missing, predominantly in our industry and really just corporate America in general. It's people, it's culture, it's and I mean that in a maybe a different sense because a lot of people probably say that, but home point is I think really special because we really do put people first, and
Sure.
I think that's too oftentimes companies are really running their business with a short term or finite mindset, right? They're making decisions based on what's necessary to hit this month's goal or this quarter's goal, and they lose sight of this longer term, bigger picture. And a big part of sustainability of any company is really having, all companies are just a collection of people with a common goal. That's it, and
Right.
if you're not making that number one, you're not sustainable. And
Hmm.
so I'm really proud of that. I think what we built culture wise and the team we have is really just unique in the industry and something that personally I just love being a part of.
So has this pandemic, if you will, actually enhanced your culture, pulled it away, and how would you describe it today versus a year from now? A year ago.
Yeah, no, I think that, and to kind of go back, I mean, what's been interesting for me about this experience, this is the fastest growth curve I've ever seen. I mean,
Sure.
I think last year, if you look at, you'd have to go down to like number 35 until you find a wholesale company that grew faster than Homepoint. So we've really done a great job, right, at growth and doing it in a controlled, methodical way. And as you would expect in doing that, you always have challenges around culture because you're bringing so many people, new into the company. And I think to answer your question, yeah, the the pandemic both created, I think, challenges, but also opportunities, right?
Mm.
Because in time of crisis or struggle, that's when you can bring people together. And so I feel like while it was challenging to navigate the excessive growth, the accelerated growth curve there, it also was a lot of fun, right? To see that culture kind of come together, right? And really everyone support each other through what has been, a pretty challenging year.
You got to see you get to actually see the fruits of your labor because
Yeah,
yes, at the beginning of last year, or I'll say March, April, when all the margin calls were happening and things were
yeah,
trying to get settled, and you bring your team together, and I'm going to guess you over communicated, right? You just got to keep
yeah,
everything centered and focused. And I think I love your description, right? Every company is really just people all focused on a common goal, right?
And what's too often the case, I think, is companies don't feel like you can take a people first approach and still make money. And we
Hmm.
actually believe the opposite. If you make people feel secure in their job and they're comfortable being vulnerable, you get more out of them. You can ask
Totally
them to
agree.
stretch and do more and be a part of a team, and their purpose changes and it becomes more about the success of the whole and less about the success of the individual, and that's the piece. And I've always kind of considered myself a culture guy, but I got to give credit to our CEO and leader, Willie Newman. I mean, he's kind of takes the cake there. He walks the walk. He genuinely cares about every
Wow.
person. I'll tell you a little story. This used to drive me nuts when I joined, but he called when I joined every new associate that started, every single one.
Love that.
And I loved it too. It was tough because he was always kicking stuff to me. Hey, I talked to this person. You need to talk with them. And finally, I just gave in. I'm like, okay, I'm going to start calling them too. And now we actually hire so many people on an ongoing basis that we do kind of calls, little group calls that usually have about 9 or 10
Sure.
people on it. But it used to be it's a lot of work, but it's so important for your culture because you learn so much about how people are feeling and what they find important, and it's also a good way for them to understand kind of what you're about, right? As a company, what the management team is trying to accomplish. And so alignment is, a really big thing for us, is constantly making sure that people understand, what we're trying to do and what their role is, and ultimately achieving our common goals.
It was yesterday. Obviously, I'm working from my home like many of us right now, even though I still go into corporate on occasion. Yesterday, I had a young man who was helping his dad out in my lawn.
Yeah.
And my husband befriends everybody. And he's like, hey, this young man could be a great intern, right?
He's finding lost.
I'm like, we're like finding lost souls. I'm like, who is this young kid? The kid is in studying to get his accounting degree.
Yeah.
He's in college. And so of course, I'm now, meeting with this young man. And I'm like, let me give you some great advice. Now, I won't tell you what I tell him. I would love to hear what you would say to a young man who's coming out of school.
Yeah.
He doesn't know where he's going to go, what kind of job. He's getting his accounting major. I said, do you want to be an accountant? No. I said, okay. So here's what I would do. What would you say to him?
Oh, I would say come into the mortgage industry, man.
Right. That's the first thing I was like. And he was very personable, good eye contact, seemed to be, driven. He goes, I want to own my own business. I'm like, okay. Well, the first thing is sales.
I will say this. That's another thing. We actually pivoted because we also saw so when the pandemic hit, our focus was first and foremost. We started weekly calls with our entire company, and we actually still do them to this day. We found so much value, yeah. And they're open discussion calls where will present kind of what's going on in our business, and then we usually reserve about 15 or 20 minutes for our associates to ask any questions they want. And it really has been impactful to the culture. But when this whole thing started, our first priority was the safety and well-being of our associates, and that was, we spent the first couple months on that, figuring out how to operate in this new, 96% remote scenario, and I think that really set the tone, right, for who we became this year. And one of the things that came out of that is when we were engaging with our associates, we found just so much disruption and quite honestly pain within these families where people were losing their jobs, their spouses, kids, or whatever. And yet we're here like needing to hire people. And so we pivoted and we created a program where we're able to bring in people that have limited to no experience in mortgage and train them on how to do all the different roles, operationally within mortgage. And we've seen that's actually pivoted our hiring to now we're actually making all of our roles. And so I actually think there's a huge opportunity for the industry in large. Is mortgage is it's just a great career. And it's sad because you don't see any colleges or universities teaching this.
I know. That's why I exist, right? Because
well, there you go.
Right.
Yeah, and we'd love to partner with you more on that type of stuff, because I feel like as an industry, we really need to focus on bringing back, kind of disciplines where we're actually educating the U.S. on how cool it is, and really focused on bringing new people in. I think that's a part of the culture too.
Couldn't agree more. We believe that as the generations are going to retire out, what's the new generation going to look like? And they're real moldable, and they want to learn, they want to grow, and they want purpose-driven companies, right?
Yes.
Well, the mortgage industry, you get to help people in one of the most special times of their life. So I don't know if you could find a better purpose-driven career other than maybe being a doctor, if you will, or maybe marrying people, right? But if you want to get married, have babies, and buy a home, man, we're the American dream. I think it's like the best industry ever. And when I stumbled on it early in my very early 20s, I was like, this is it. And I told that young man, I'm like, he goes, what do you think about commercial real estate? I'm like, oh, that one, I'm not sure I would go near, because we're all subleasing right now. We're figuring out how to do this in a different manner. So
yeah, clearly I'm biased, but I do think, we're creating the second largest bond market in the world. And the people don't understand the financial impact we have to our economy, and they don't understand or appreciate, we're putting people in homes and keeping them there. I mean, it's the biggest financial transaction that most people are going to make in their life. And so, to your point, for a purpose-driven person, it's an admirable career. It really is.
Okay, so let me ask you a quick question. Where did you learn your leadership?
Oh boy, that's a great question. Honestly, Some of it was necessity. You know, I was fortunate where early on in my career, I was thrown into situations where I had to figure it out. And so some of it was just trial and error, and over time kind of making mistakes and learning from my mistakes. And honestly, the most important thing I've found is as an individual, like you have to get comfortable with uncertainty. You have to get comfortable with being vulnerable, because that's really how you grow. And so I think really lucky that early on in my career, I was thrown into situations where there was a lot of uncertainty and it was scary, and I navigated through it, and I made mistakes and learned from them. And then I was also really fortunate to be able to learn from leaders that are just that for whatever reason took an interest in me and took me under their wing and taught me things, you know. And so I had some really good people that I was able to model after, you know, and people that weren't in it for themselves, you know, that really were interested in growing other people and giving back. And I think that's important too, because what I think oftentimes leaders miss, and by the way, I've also worked for bad leaders. And so I've actually learned almost just as much from bad leaders as good leaders. But
I could add to that for certain, right?
you know,
Bad.
it's like,
Like I will not be like that.
yeah, it's like you almost learn more that way because the contrast is more stark. But it really is about like what leaders need to recognize. Good leaders recognize it's not about you. It's about, you know, you get value, you create value for yourself by making other people successful, right? And so when you focus more of your energy on other people, it comes back to you tenfold. And that's where I think you know, there's not enough companies that have leaders that do that. It's more about how much money can you make as fast as possible, and I just think that's not sustainable, and it's a big part of honestly the problem with corporate America.
Yeah, that young man, my advice to him was, I know you're going to ask, what's the income opportunity? Yeah, you should worry about that long term, but the short term, don't even ask what's the income. Ask
You
who
don't
am I
know.
going to report? Ask who am I going to report to?
That's right.
Because
Learn.
that person is going
Yeah,
to drive your learning curve.
totally
Either
agree
it's
with
going
that.
to in the tank or it's going to amplify your success, because unfortunately, as we've all in our careers, we're a product of the people that have come in our lives. And so
Yeah.
be real selective. And these young kids are like, what's the job pay? I'm like, that's the wrong question. Because quite frankly, if I was a young kid again, I'd be like, let me find the most successful person who is really good at teaching, and they don't even have to pay me, because I'm going to get there exponentially faster if I can. Anyway, that was my advice to that young man. I was like, get in the mortgage business. I can help you.
Yeah.
This is what you're really interested in, but you got a few hurdles. You got to go shadow, etc. Make sure it's what you want to do. But
Well said. Totally agree with that. I've never really negotiated on my own personal comp. Like I've always focused more on the learning and the growth and the, you know, and look, if you're doing something you love and you're learning, the money comes every single time. And I know that sounds cliche, but it's true.
it's true. And you know, somebody said to me on or Reddit that said people aren't lazy; they're just in the wrong job.
Yes. They're not
Right.
inspired, they're not motivated. Their purpose is wrong. Yeah.
Right. They just don't have, because I don't feel like I work every day. I
Yeah.
wake up and go, let's go. Right.
Yeah.
It's work is when it isn't what you were meant to do.
It shouldn't
And
feel like work. If it feels like work, something's wrong.
totally, right? Like this isn't really laborious having a conversation with you today, right? So good
Yeah.
news.
Yeah.
It makes it easy, especially when someone like yourself who's have been so successful and so blessed. All right, so let's end it with, I've got a final question.
Sure.
What does this next year look like for you and your company?
Honestly, it's more growth, right? And so we're focused. One of the things I really appreciate about Homepoint is we're running our company with a long-term mindset, right? And so our long-term vision is more about, it's about stability. It's about making money over the long term. It's about putting people in homes and keeping them there, creating, you know, financially happy, healthy homeowners. It's about serving our customers, and but that's a journey. You never get, that's never a destination, right? And so we're never going to be done. We're going to keep getting better every single day, and we're going to have a lot of fun while we do it, and we're going to support each other, and that's ultimately where our success will come from.
Oh, wonderful. You know, it's going to be an interesting year or
Yes.
two. I'm not quite sure. I'm waiting for the guy that says, here's the crystal ball, and they're right. right?
Only,
So,
right?
you know, we're all about planning. I mean, I've been in business now, what, 19, a little over 19 years, and completely blessed. I've seen all the cycles. I've been in the industry. I'm scared to even say 35 plus years, but that tells you my age a little bit. But when you look at it and I look back and go, every single challenge, and we're going to be challenged again in this industry, right? But every single challenge is truly the opportunity to grow.
Yeah, well, that's the thing that's so exciting about this. I actually prefer the challenging times over the good times because that's when you see the most growth. That's when
Well, that's when you really see leadership.
That's exactly
Or
right.
lack of.
That's what really matters.
Right.
Really, yeah.
That's what it really matters. It's when you can see it and you respond to it effectively, not down, but up. Like, here's what we're going to do.
Don't lead with fear.
Yeah.
It's about courage and vision.
Totally you got it. Could not agree more. Well, what a pleasure it was to have a few minutes with you.
Yeah, I enjoyed it, Casey. Thanks for.
I look forward to getting to know you more.
Likewise.
All right. Well, you have an amazing day and we'll talk soon.
All right. You too. Thank you. Thanks.